Going to be making our way down to the floor, or you can stay in your chair as well to do some stretching in a staff position. And in the case of our balance exercise today and the staff, you may need a strap nearby. It'll just help you to kind of keep the body honest and upright, or help you to lift a foot if you're still in that mode of not being able to balance on one foot. There's a number of modifications that I'll try to point out, but in the meantime, we'll just go ahead and start at the back of the mat as we usually do. And I touched my here we go, my playlist, and erased it, so let me get it back up, and we will start at the back of the mat.
Are you connected, Jeani?
I believe I connected. Yes? Okay, great. But my phone is, okay. All right, as usual, audio issues for me sometimes here, but I will go ahead and join you as you're at the back of the mat. Oh, not connected, so I will connect. I don't know if that, it didn't ding. Okay. Okay, it didn't do that again. Well, just go ahead and just relax at the back of your mat, standing in mountain. We'll be with you in just a moment. And as is usually the case, all you're trying to do at this point is to make sure that you're noticing your breath. And we might just have to use the speaker of my phone for today's class, but that's okay. Sometimes you just have to adapt. Sure. Thank you. And when you're here at the back of the mat, arriving, all you have to do is notice how the body's responding. Just check in. For instance, notice how the feet feel on the mat. Heel to toe alignment of the feet under the hips in your mountain. You might notice if you're holding onto your arms. I know I was. Just try to relax. And in our mountain position, it's slightly active. You're feeling the feet, the legs are slightly internally rotated at the thighs. And hopefully you're tucking your tailbone in. And as you notice your breath, how you're arriving, the body, we'll move on to this cultivation of the breath for our practice. Developing our yogic breath. Let's go ahead and place our left palm on our chest, right palm under the belly button, and breathe. Now your breath cycle, the inhale, a pause, an exhale, pause once more before the next breath cycle starts. It'll start to lengthen with each successive attempt. We're breathing through the nose. There we go. And usually I have to turn up the volume after I connect. Okay, or I could do that too. So you're just breathing, and as you're inhaling, you may notice the collarbones lifting. And on the exhale, notice how the air leaves your lungs, and press in that belly hand at the bottom of the exhale to help engage your core. And as we start to quiet down, the yogic breath cycle begins to lengthen. about 5 to 6 seconds per breath cycle. We'll finish cultivating the breath with the sound of the ocean at the back of the throat. And know that we can be connected to this yogic breath all throughout our practice, on and off the mat. Let's go ahead and release the hands down to our sides. And you can reset your mountain if you need to. We were there for a little bit. You can roll a little bit of weight from heel to toe. And keep a gentle bend to the knees if your legs are tight. But as we return to mountain, each iteration, we're trying to just get a little longer, a little taller. And so we'll start our next warm-up with the inhale. Imagine drawing energy from the feet. It's traveling through the legs, up the spine, through to the crown of the head and to the ceiling, if not beyond. A brief pause before you exhale, feeling that energy return, reverse order, back down the body. Feel a little more rooted at the end of this exhale, engaged core. And then with the next inhale, we'll start to tip the weight towards our toes, such that maybe at the top of the inhale, you're at that very tipping point at the toes. Then use your exhale to slowly roll the center of gravity at the soles of your feet towards the heels. Again, at the bottom of the exhale, a tipping feeling at the heels. And then use the next couple of breath cycles to explore the heel to toe alignment. Feel your center traveling right there at the soles of the feet. And then we'll meet back at center. Hopefully it's right above the ankles, near to the heels. Feel yourself rooting in. And then inhaling all the way up once more, energized up through the crown of the head and beyond. Exhale, just start to bring that weight towards the outer right edge of each foot. Sole of the foot is still in contact, and fully exhale to the right here. We'll inhale back up to center for a 3-part breath, or all the way over for a 2-part breath. Whatever works for you for the next couple of breath cycles. We're just trying to find the horizontal mapping. I feel like my feet are a little too close to each other, so I'm going to widen them. But as you're finding that rocky motion, exhaling to one side or both sides, inhaling to the center or to that opposite side, keeping contact with the mat for the most part. And then we'll return to center, back in our home base of mountain, and resetting your feet, your mountain if you need. We'll move on up the body. We're going to give ourselves a brief, momentary movement in the ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, waist. So you're going to pivot out the toes just slightly. And as we start to shift our weight from side to side, and the body is pretty much upright, we're going to start feeling more of that shifting weight, allowing us to slightly turn at the feet. We just start with the feet. And then eventually, as we have more and more of the body moving to one side, and maybe if you can imagine the torso moving just slightly, a second or two after or before, we just have a gentle twisting at the waist. And that movement is moving our arms, not that we're moving our arms, but as more and more of that momentum starts, hopefully you'll feel some movement in our ankles, pivoting on the heels as we have more and more of our torso moving towards one side. And just breathing deeply, just gently lubricating those joints. And then we'll let that energy die down. Return back to center. Pivot in the feet. Heel to toe alignment once more. Lift the foot if you want. And then we'll move on up to the shoulders. At this point, you can give yourself any counter movement if you still feel muscles are activated from that last movement. And making sure that the heels and toes are in a straight line here. Toe lines are up against a horizontal line, if you can imagine, while the heel to toe alignment, they're parallel. And notice if your knees are winging out, winging in. That all might have to do with how much weight is being borne on the soles of the feet, outer edge versus inner edge. See if you can get an even distribution of weight on the soles of the feet. Alrighty, now we're moving up to the shoulders, palms facing forward. We're going to inhale, allow the shoulders to lift upwards towards the ceiling, and then exhale, roll them back and down. We're going for a total of 4 breath cycles. The shoulder rolls up and shoulder rolls back on the exhale. Inhaling, shoulders lift up. Exhale, shoulders roll back and down. Use the slow sound of your yogic breath to help you facilitate the release. And with the second set, we're lifting up once more on the inhale, but we're shoulder rolling forward on the exhale. Still tucking in the shoulder blade bottoms into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale. And it's a total of 4 of these, with lifting the shoulders up and rolling the shoulders forward on the exhale. And your gaze is just somewhere out in front of you. One more. And the breath is through the nose. And then we'll go ahead and move up to the neck, the head. At this next inhale, we're once more imagining that energy lifting from the feet all the way up the body through to the crown of the head, like a string being pulled by a marionette. We'll go ahead and inhale all the way up, and then exhale. Let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. Both shoulders should still stay in line. Inhaling, we feel lifting of the entire body, maybe even especially so at the sternum. And on the exhale, we just turn the gaze until it stops. Use the next 4 breath cycles to see if you can release the left side of the neck, the jawline, the temple, even the eyes. See if by the last exhale, if your eyes can rest at your right thumb, maybe the floor, maybe your right shoulder, maybe behind your right shoulder. Don't force anything and use your breath. Exhales are an excellent time to go a little deeper. Inhales are good for drawing in the energy, feeling the length of the body. You may even feel the rib cage expand sideways with each very deep inhale. Then after your very last exhale, we're just going to bring the eyes, the gaze turns, and the head lifts completely at the top of the inhale towards the ceiling. So all you have to do is dip on over to the other side with that exhale. Inhale to lift up. Exhale to turn the gaze. Once more, that deep yogic breath. You may feel the shoulder blades, those triangular angel-like wings, angel wing-like shapes, melting down the back, tips at the bottom, tucking in to the mid-back. And when that last exhale is done, inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head back up towards the ceiling, and then exhale. Let the eyes float the face towards the top of the mat, about 6 feet in front of you. There's still that space between the chin and the chest. And as we're inhaling, palms facing forward to help keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears, nice and relaxed arms. Breathe deeply. Notice any changes in the foundation of the soles of the feet and the length of the legs. Maybe you might feel on an exhale a releasing somewhere in the body. But hopefully everything from the shoulders down to the heels, one nice long column of support. And after that last exhale, we'll inhale the eyes back towards the midline, past the midline, and as you start looking above you, you can stop once you can see somewhat there, so you don't crane the back of your neck. And here, use the next 4 breath cycles to open up through the mouth, through the tongue, through the throat. Soften your brow line. Do what feels good to you. If you have a tendency to clench through the night, maybe you can give yourself a gentle O opening, slowly to a larger O opening. See if you hear any cracking, any popping, just gentle, slow movements. And maybe with the mouth just slightly open, you can just lower the jaw and gently move it from side to side. And after the very last breath cycle there, we'll just let the eyes float on back to the midline. Have that opening at the base of the neck, and then shake out any residual activation. You'd be surprised, sometimes it's in the hands, sometimes it's in the toes, and then we'll reset our mountain once more and begin our folds before we start our walking meditation. So I'm just bringing up my hands, but imagine energized fingers reaching downwards. And with that motion of energy, we're extending the arms upwards. At the top, we can even lift up at the torso. Start to engage the core, pushing the tailbone back behind that original leg starting position of the hips. You can start to hinge at the hips, long back, and halfway down if you need to. You can always walk the hands down, but we're folding for our first ragdoll of a fold. It's about 5 breath cycles. If you have your blocks nearby, you can rest your hands on the blocks. You can rest them on the shins. You can rest your forearms on your thighs. And you can keep a deep bend to the knees if you need. But we want to feel that tailbone, hips to heel or tailbone to heels alignment, support. And you can give yourself just some time to get there. If you have a really tight lower back, you might be more of a half lift position, and that's okay. Just give yourself the time and the space to release. And for some of us, you might just be touching the fingertips to the floor or perhaps even the palms to the floor. Again, depends on how open the hips are, the hamstrings. But we want to keep that support definitely in the legs so that you can work on releasing the upper body from the tailbone down the spine, neck to the head. We're holding on to the head usually, so see if you can gently just release. You'll have more of the crown of the head pointed towards the floor. The chest will get a little closer to the thighs. But of course, if you need to support yourself until you get there, that's fine. Give yourself nice, long, deep yogic breaths. And again, it's a total of 5 in our first lengthy ragdoll of a fold. And you might find, if you're pretty good here, that just giving extra movement, like bending one knee, lengthening that leg, and then alternating with the other leg, bending that knee and straightening it, might help you to release just a little more so you can lengthen through the legs. You can always shift the hips from side to side in a horizontal plane. Sometimes that helps to open up the hips as well. You might hear some snap, crackle, and popping too, and that's all right. That's just your synovial fluid, the joint lining, all the air sometimes. Sometimes you're just dehydrated as well, so we need to get that lubrication going. And hopefully if you're in a good deep fold, your eyes are focused downward, and you're just releasing with the help of gravity or with some props until you're ready. Now to come out, we're going to do a slow roll up with our first ragdoll. So protect the back, engage your core, stepping into the feet, firming up the legs is a part of that. And then we're going to slowly walk the hands up or do a slow roll up upwards. Stacking each vertebra on top of each other, bringing in the tailbone. Opening up the shoulders as if we're rolling them back and down. Last thing to stack on the neck is the head. Give yourself a moment here to let the blood rush back to the head. We'll fold one more time, reaching downwards. Inhale, extend the arms up. Exhale, hinging at the hips, engaged core, stick the tailbone back and fold. Walk the hands down halfway or float the torso downward. Let the arms relax to where they need to be. And eventually, your torso will also relax and you'll get more of a fold as your practice develops. But here we're breathing for about 3 breath cycles. And you can do your counter stretching, your extra movement to help release any tightness. You can bend the knees. You can gently bend both knees, redistribute the weight at the heels, somewhere above the ankles, and make sure you're not holding on to the weight of the head. You can gently nod the head no, nod the head yes. Let the head dangle like a plumb line. And then we'll do another slow roll up, or you can come up with a straight back. But either way, we engage our core, we inhale, and if you'd like to put your hands together, or you can walk them up. And at the top, we're going to reach up once more. See if you can really feel the feet, internally rotate those thighs. And if your hands are in prayer, bring them down heart center. And I forgot to pick up the blocks. But if you'd like to use the blocks in your walking meditation, we'll go ahead and bring them up and holding them here at our chest, or your hands can be in prayer here. And hopefully your feet are not sticking to the mat. With an inhale, start bringing standing weight to the left side of the body. See if you have that balance at the left leg so that you can lift the right heel. If you're new to this and you've never done this before, you can just walk in place or you can follow along, but we're just going to lift the right foot. You don't have to lift the heel up high. You could just lift the heel and walk it forward just slightly. You can lift the knee up higher and kind of be suspended in air, but we exhale that right foot down, and before you lift up that left leg, make sure you have balance to the right foot, right leg. And lifting that one up, you can walk that forward. Exhaling that foot down. It can be heel, it can be midfoot, and then toes. Once you have that balance, we're just walking forward, 1 full breath cycle per step. And sometimes you might have to touch down on the ball of the foot or the toes. You might even fall out, that's okay. Just come on back when you can. But it's a slow walking breath cycle, 1 breath cycle per step forward. And you're feeling, hopefully, how the body transitions, the center of gravity, how your glutes of the standing leg, all the way down to the ball of the foot is stabilizing that leg as you move the other foot up into the air, maybe just hovering and setting that down. And we'll meet at the top of the mat in our mountain. Here, go ahead and look down at the fingertips or your block tops and press into the palms or the blocks. Watch the fingertips rise, the blocks rise. And at the top, we separate the hands. Exhale, engage the core, stick the tailbone back and fold. Come on down, float on down, come all the way down. Fully exhaled. You might have your hands with the blocks down at the floor, fully exhaled here. We're going to press into wherever our hands are or forearms to stabilize and lengthen through the legs best that we can and through the back. You want to look out in front of you, maybe about a foot or straight down, but don't curve the back of your neck. And we're engaging our core in this half lift and we're pressing down through the legs, lengthening. And then exhale. You can bend at the elbows and just let the torso float downward towards the thighs. We're going to then place our hands at either side of the feet or with the help of the blocks at a lower setting. You're going to step back 1 leg. Bend the knees deeply if you need to. You might even need to take a few steps back, bringing the hands eventually down to where your feet used to be. We have our inhale forward, lengthening of the legs so that we can bring the torso up, and the shoulders should be right above your hands, your wrists. And from here, we're going to lower down and modify this high plank by bringing the shins down, opening up the ankles, and just giving ourselves 5 good deep breath cycles here. We're making sure we have what feels like the lower body supported by the shins, the open ankles, and you can always tuck the toes too if that doesn't speak to you. This is sometimes hard if you've never opened up at the ankles. And you want to make sure the torso, the upper body, is supported by these strong, protracted shoulders and extended arms. Fingertips should be splayed. Now, if you have a 90-degree angle at your wrists and that's really doesn't feel good for you, you can always bring the hands forward a little bit, or you can walk the body lifting up at the knees and bring the shift the body back a little bit so it's not quite a 90-degree angle at the wrists. But we do want to feel the entire palm, the fingertip skin between the digits, the fingertips, as much of the skin of the hands, the palms, down on the mat to help evenly distribute that weight so it's not just dumped into the heels of your palms. And hopefully your kneecaps are not feeling any of the brunt of the weight. And at this point, feeling that diagonal from the shins to the crown of the head as one energy line, as well as the energy line of the shoulders down to the hands and just the shins on the mat. Okay, with the next inhale, let's go ahead and tuck the toes if they aren't already, lift up the hips, and we're going to press the hips back into a down dog. That should shift the torso such that the head is somewhere in between the upper arms. And you'll want to think, because we have about 5 breath cycles here, you want to think about the space between the feet. It should be about hips distance apart, could be a little wider. And the heels can be lifted as well. But if you have your heels down on the mat, you might think about pigeon toeing the toes and spinning those femurs, the thigh bones, inward so that you have a good rotation of that, the head of the femur and the pelvic bowl is tilted to give you better access for an upside down V shape, but you might have more of an upside down U shape, and that's okay. Fingers, again, nice and splayed to help distribute the weight. And you want to keep the shoulders away from the ears. So we're going to extend, externally rotate those shoulders. And you can see if they are by simply bending at the elbows slightly. They should bend towards the back of the mat. And all you're doing in this first very lengthy down dog is just making sure your positioning is good, your alignment is good for your practice. And if you happen to have extra time in that 5 breath cycle length, you can always roll to the balls of the feet slowly on the exhale. Allow the heels to drop down lower. You may find you need to shorten the stance, the distance between the hands and the feet to get more of that upside down V shape. Keep a deep bend to the knees though. If the hamstrings, the calves, the Achilles heels are so tight that you can't lengthen the legs, you might have a different looking dog, and that's all right. You're just doing what you can, where you can. And so, hopefully you're at the end of the 5 breath cycles. And with an inhale, we're just going to roll our eyes towards the hands. Keep a bend to the knees if you need to. We're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the feet, to the fold. And if you notice that you're a little far forward, just step back. And fully exhaled here. I didn't bring the blocks, sorry about that, but if you're using blocks, you should have them all in your hands for the most part. And in our fold, we're fully exhaled. Inhale, we're going to lengthen into a half lift. And keeping your hands at that point to help you lengthen, that sometimes really helps. And then exhale, fold once more. Inhale, come up with a slow roll up or with a straight back. But either way, we want to feel our tailbone tucking under as we inhale all the way back up, pressing into the feet, reaching upwards, engaging the glutes all the way down to the balls of the feet and the heels, hands down heart center. And we'll do another couple walking meditation. So inhaling, standing weight to the left side of the body. And again, you can stay in your place or you can walk along. Exhale the right foot down. Engaged core really helps to keep the balance. Once you have that balance, go ahead and lift the left foot and walk that up. Exhaling it down. Inhaling the other foot up. And this is at your pace. I may be saying one thing, but your body may be doing another. Just focus on your breath. If you have to take a few more breaths, that's okay. point of our walking meditation is a slow, mindful movement coordinated with the breath to the top of the mat. And at the top, we look down at our fingertips, inhaling, pressing into the palms. Watch them rise. Separate the palms at the top. Exhale, engaged core, hinging at the hips. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, press into your contact point with the hands and lengthen through the back and the legs best that you can. Exhale, fold once more. Start bending the knees if you need, but walk one leg and then the other. You might be able to just do one step back with each leg. You might have to do several, but we're stepping back, and then we'll inhale, shoulders over the wrists. This time keep your length long, but if it's too much for you, you can always modify and bring the shins down. We'll stay here for about 3 breath cycles. And what we're doing is engaging the core, feeling that energy line diagonally from the heels all the way to the crown of the head, looking downward. And then imagine pressing down from the shoulders down to the hands as one energy point, and then from the heels down to the balls of the feet with the other energy point. So we have 3 in total. And then we will inhale here, lifting up the hips. Exhale, press into the arms so you can bring the hips back to down dog. Keep your blocks nearby, because we'll walk the hands back with the blocks if you're using the blocks. But here in our second down dog, you can walk your dog. You can bend one knee. Hopefully that helps you to lower the opposite foot's heel. And notice if your elbows start winging out towards the outer edge. We want to keep them right in place so that if they bend directly backwards. Keep your shoulders rotated away from the ears. And see if you're dumping all that weight into the heels of your hands, or if you have a good even distribution of weight at the tops of the hands, including the skin between the first and second knuckles of each finger. And as we get ready to move back, take your blocks with you. We're going to inhale, look at our hands, and then walk the hands back to the fold at the back of the mat. Fully exhaled here. Keep the bend to your knees if you need. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Let the torso float back to the fold. And then inhale, engage the core. Keep a bend to the knees if you need. And come on up. Roll up or straight back, all the way up. Lift up, engage the core, hands down, heart center. And once more, we walk. Inhaling, and I'm going to take the blocks. Lift the right foot when it's ready, and step it forward on the exhale. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale that down. Once more, if you feel a little wobbly, pressing into the palms, engaging the core, if you lost that, sometimes helps you to regain your balance. If it's not challenging enough for you, you could always hover that foot, that knee a little higher up as you step it forward. If it's challenging, just do your best in bringing the foot slightly above the mat and stepping that forward. Do what you can. And at the top of the mat, we look down at the fingertips or the blocks, lift them up, separating the blocks at the top. Exhale, engaged core. Float on down. Another fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold once more. And then start to step the hands to either side of the feet. One foot back, the other foot, maybe a couple steps back. Inhale, shoulders over the wrists for a high plank, and stay here for 3 breath cycles. See if you can keep the feet on the balls of the feet. And feel those 3 energy lines as usual. Pressing into the balls of the feet and the hands gently as the core is engaged, keeping the torso at that diagonal, looking down. You want to keep the shoulders nice and strong, not caving into the spine area, but moving away, if you can think of that, from the spine. All right, inhaling, let's lift up the hips. Exhale, let's bring the hips back into down dog. Take along your blocks if you're using them. But here, again, 3 breath cycles. See if you can gently bounce on the balls of the feet. Maybe walk your dog. Notice how the upper body is. Is your head in between the biceps, the upper arms? Are you looking downward? And how do the hands receive the weight of the upper body? And use your yogic breath. Inhaling deeply, exhaling deeply. And with the next inhale, we'll roll our eyes to the hands, using the blocks if we need. We'll walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. Fully exhaled into your fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, engage the core, tuck under the tailbone, roll up or straight back all the way up, lifting, engaging the glutes, pressing into the feet, exhaling, hands down heart center. And that was our walking meditation, so we can release our hands to the sides. All right, hopefully you feel a little warmer. It's a good time for a little water. We'll be moving into that standing pose where we're going to try to balance on one leg. And if you know you have issues with that, stand by the wall, stand by something stable that you can reach out to. And I'm just going to turn to the side here, keeping the blocks over here. We'll start in our mountain. And now your mountain should feel a little different from the start of class. Maybe you have more of a tucked under tailbone and it's not an issue to straighten out your front tilt at the hips. You can internally rotate the thighs, just engaging the quads enough to feel the balls of the feet, to feel your feet on the mat. Nice and distributed weight there. We'll go ahead and inhale. Standing weight now to the right side of the body. We're going to get that standing body. It's just a subtle shift over to the right side. And you should be able to just lift the left heel without making any difference in that stability, that center. And then if you're able to, you can work on just this part here. If you notice yourself wobbling a great deal or the stability is not quite there, just stay here, lifting that left heel and making this left foot lighter and lighter if you can. And eventually, you might just be able to hover the sole of that foot above the mat. And that's all we're going to do, is just try to see if you can keep the balance on one foot. Engaging that standing legs, glute, the core, the glute, the calves, without hyperextending that right knee. And you might need to tap down with this lifted foot or heel. You might have to tap down the heel, might have to do a lot of things, but we're just trying to keep that balance. We're doing this for about 3 breath cycles. And then we can gently bring the heel down, the entire foot down, and redistribute the weight evenly between both legs, and give yourself any counter movement. That might be just bending your knees. It might be giving a little weight to the opposite side so you can shake out any residual tension to the right. You can roll on that former standing leg's ankle. Sometimes you're just still holding on to tension, and we need to let go of that. Alrighty, and moving back into our mountain. It's about a square foot. Toes are aligned. We'll go ahead, tucking under the tailbone, pressing into the feet, feeling a little taller, a little longer and stronger in our mountain. Let's go ahead and bring some standing weight to the left side of the body. Subtle shift, such that all you have to do is lift the right heel and then move from there. If you need to develop that balance, just stay there. If you're feeling like, oh, you've got this, see if you can lift the ball of that right foot. In either way, you're engaging the standing leg from the glutes, from the top of the hip to the glutes, to the hamstrings. The quads are engaged, of course. The inner and outer muscles of that standing leg, firing them up and cueing that by stepping into the foot. That really helps. An engaged core. And I'm a little weaker today on this side, so I'm just staying on the ball of my foot. But if you're able to, you might just have the entire right foot hovering above that mat. We're just trying to stand on the leg for about 3 breath cycles, if you're able to. And if you have to tap out, that's okay. And then we'll go ahead. Bring that right foot down completely, the right heel down. Bring even distribution of weight to both legs. And give yourself any counter movement to that left side of the body. You might need to roll that ankle. You might need to kick out that leg, as long as you have stability in the other side. And again, always remind yourself, if you do the kicking, you want to kick out the same side of that leg before you cross the midline. And crossing the midline really helps to release the glute, if you notice that that is just super tight. Alrighty, and then we'll move on down. We've got about 20 more minutes of class, so we're gonna move on down to the mat, or you're welcome to stay in the chair. We're gonna meet in a bridge position. And if you're down on the mat and you know where that is, go ahead and get down there. You want your feet about hips distance apart. If you're on a chair, you can be at the front part of the chair, but we want your sits bones right at the edge. You can be at the side of the chair as well. And maybe because I have the orientation of the chair this way, I'll just demonstrate this time here. But you don't want to have your tailbone all the way to the back of the seat. You want to have it right there at the edge and stay in this 90-degree angle at your knees. And when you're in bridge, your feet will be a little closer to your hips, so you'll have a little less of a 90-degree angle. But if you're in the chair, just stay here. This would be your base bridge position. We'll do things like windshield wiping from side to side. So you may need to hold onto the base of the seat, the back of the chair, and you'll be doing that. If you lean back, you'll open up your hips too. When we start to lift up our hips in bridge, you'll be just maybe lifting up the hips slightly from the chair with the hold of the back of the chair if you need. So, coming down into bridge, making sure the heels are somewhat brushable by the fingertips, but not so close that they have to be touching your buttocks. And all we'll do is have a block handy as well. If you're at a base bridge position and you're not able to lift the hips, you might be able to just at least slide a block on its lowest setting underneath the sacrum, the tailbone, to help you stay there while you're lifting up. But in our base bridge position, we want to make sure our arms are out to the sides. If you're on the chair, hold on to the bottom of the seat chair or the back of the chair if you have one. And we're going to inhale, start to press into the feet. And as you do so, just lifting up at the tailbone. If your toes lift, we don't want that. So you want to plant the feet down. Press into the balls of the feet and the toes to prevent them from curling up if you need. Now we're just going to hold it here. It's just slightly above the floor, just for about 3 breath cycles here. So you can breathe deeply, engage your glutes, and you're just having it lifted slightly about 1 inch above the floor. You should have the most of your mid-back down on the floor. And then with the exhale, just start to slowly lower the spine downwards. Bring the hips down, and then relax the glutes. And give yourself a deep breath or two here. And then we'll do a next bridge set, but this time we're really going to try to press with our glutes and into the feet to lift up the hips as high as we can. And in this case, you may need a block if you want to go a little higher. So with the next inhale, start to press into the feet, engage the core. You can even use your arms if you're down on the mat to press into those, but try to get the movement of lifting from the muscles in the glute area and in the feet. And hopefully you will use less of the quads. And then see if you can get as high as you can and maintain that height for 3 to 5 breath cycles. With each inhale, drawing in energy, feeling that sideways movement of the rib cage. And with each exhale, squeeze the glutes. See if you can help to maintain that lift with each passing exhale. And if you have to sit back down onto that support block or all the way down to the mat, you're welcome to do that. Just do what you can where you can. But you want to make sure as you're coming out, and we are now going to slowly, one vertebra at a time where our back is connected, we're going to slowly bring each vertebra down until our hips come right back down. We can release the glutes and hopefully relax just a little bit more here. And then we will do one more. Inhaling, press into the arms if you need to, but engage the glutes, start to roll up the sacrum, the tailbone, start lifting up higher. You should be pressing into your feet, making sure the balls of the feet are pressed into the floor. Squeeze the butt if you need. And breathe here, 5 breath cycles. If you used your shoulders to help get you to this point, see if you can relax the shoulders and keep the lift up with the help of the gluteal muscles. Making sure your internal thighs all the way down to the balls of the feet are helping to also keep that lift. We want to make sure the soles of the feet are down on the floor. You are extra engaged at the ball of the foot, at the balls of the feet. And then we're going to slowly, one vertebra at a time, allow the spine to relax, then the sacrum, then the tailbone, and then you can release the glutes once more. And then here, we're going to gently let the knees roll to one side. It's a long, savored windshield wipe to one side. I'm going to the right. And all you'll do is just roll to the outer right edge, the outer edge of your feet that you're windshield wiping into. Give yourself 3 good breath cycles here, nice and slow. By that last exhale, you might find some release in the hip, in the knee, in the toes even. To come back to center, we're going to engage the core. You can even assist your thighs if you need, but try to use the glutes, the hips, the back, lower back to just roll back onto the mat. It'll draw the knees back up as it needs. Keep the heel to toe alignment. Set that if you need to. Reset the one nice long line of the spine and the neck. We don't want to have the neck curved to one side. And then we're going to allow the knees to gently fall to the opposite side. It's the left side for me now. And all I'm doing is just moving to the outer left edge of my feet while the knees kind of follow along. and your top hip, my right one in this case, start to lift up more. The shoulder does not need to come up, but it can. If you're super tight in the lower back, you may just need to lift up that same side shoulder. But if you can keep the torso down, the back down, you'll get a nice deep stretch all along that lat side of the rib cage. And hopefully the psoas, all these tight hip flexor muscles are just releasing for you on that top portion of the hip. And again, it's about 3 to 5 breath cycles. And then as we move back to center, assisting the thighs if we need, we're focused on engaging the core and rolling the sacrum, that lower bony back part of the pelvic bowl, back onto the mat. And that should automatically help the knees come back up towards center, facing the ceiling. And then we'll go ahead and extend through one leg. If you're seated in the chair, you can extend through the legs as a counter stretch. And you can tap out one leg, see if that leg feels stiff. If you're down on the mat and the knee is tented and your calf isn't meeting the floor, you can extend through the leg, flexing the foot, pressing out through the heel, and then just release the leg. Hopefully that'll help it get closer to the mat. If you're on the chair in your base bridge 90 degree position, just go ahead and keep the leg long, and you can extend through the right leg as well. On an inhale or an exhale, does not matter at this point, but if you can, do what you need to do to help release any tightness there. You might be bouncing at the knees, you might point the toes, flex the feet, and then you just relax the legs nice and long. As we move into Shavasana, if you don't want to slide off of that chair and you're sitting in a chair, you may just need to bring your knees bent, feet under the knees in that 90-90 position, and that'll be your Shavasana. Or you can see if extending your legs helps you. You just don't want to fall out. As Shavasana is just the body relaxing, responding to today's practice. And you can gently close your eyes. You can keep the arms out to the sides, palms facing up. You can cover your body with a blanket if you feel a draft. But essentially let the belly be soft. If there's that high space at the lower back, you might need to roll a towel, a blanket underneath to help support that. Or you can bend the knees while you're laying down, and maybe that'll help to relieve any compression at the lower back if you need. Then knock the knees inward, let them rest towards each other, and that can be your Shavasana. But ideally, if you're able to lay down with the legs down, that's where you want to be. Now I'll be sitting upright, just to mind the time while you lay down in your final resting pose of Shavasana. And for the next few minutes, hopefully you can allow your body to relax. Just observe it. If thoughts start to come into the periphery, note them, and then return to your breath. And just allow the quiet to resolve into the breath. When you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. Bringing the mind back to the body, taking note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to your breath. As your body and spirit return, connecting, you can facilitate that connection with movement in the fingers, the feet. You can roll parts of your body, maybe your ankles, maybe your wrists. And then we can find our way up to an easy seated position of your choice. You can sit with your legs crossed in front of you. You can sit in a staff position, hero position. I have half of a Padmasana and half staff because I am working towards sitting on my hips in crisscross applesauce one day, soon, hopefully. And as we're doing our closing breath exercise, it's just to help re-energize the body, bring a little balance before we end class. So we'll start with our usual alternate nostril breathing exercise. So just sitting up nice and tall, sitting on the sits bones with a tall spine, bringing the left hand with the index finger and thumb touching. You can rest the back of that hand on your left thigh. Right hand can have the first two fingers down on the mount in a Vishnu mudra. And we're going to be closing our right nostril with our right thumb, left nostril with the right ring finger tip. But if that's too awkward, you can always just bring the two fingers to rest between the brows and close with the right thumb and right knuckle of the ring finger accordingly. So let's go ahead and inhale deeply. Close the right nostril. Exhale through the left. Completely exhaled, lift the perineum, engage the core. Inhale slowly. Feel the collarbones lift, ribcage expand at the top of the inhale. Close the left nostril, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Last round. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Go ahead and bring down the hand, release the mudras, and breathe naturally. Bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the community room for Gentle Yoga at noon. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. And I'm here for the next few minutes if you have any questions, comments, feedback. And if you're new, if you have a moment to spare after class and just introduce yourself, that would be great.